Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Jazz Trumpeter Derrick Gardner. We caught up with him on July 13th, 2020 during the COVID-19 lockdown to talk about his latest 2020 CD, Still I Rise. He was inspired by the finest hard-working, funky bop bands of the 1960s and made his mark upon arriving in New York in 1991. Over the last 18 years, he has worked with a tremendous litany of artists that have included the late Dizzy Gillespie, George Benson, Frank Foster, Nancy Wilson, Clark Terry, and many others. Enjoy his story.
Right on. Thanks for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. No problem at all.
I love the new album, Still I Rise. And I just kind of wanted to catch up with you about this release and kind of your life and music. So I guess
Sure.
my first question is, obviously during a pandemic, it's a unique time to release an album. How have you been doing during the pandemic, and kind of what are your thoughts, any ambivalent thoughts on releasing this at this time?
Well, I've been doing. Thank you for asking. I've been doing pretty well during these kind of crazy times here, and fortunately, I live in Winnipeg, Canada, and Winnipeg, Manitoba, and fortunately, we don't have a lot of cases up here at all. I mean, in the entire province of Manitoba, I think we might have had about maybe close to 400 cases, and maybe in Winnipeg is the largest city, and we might have had about maybe 7 or 8 people in the hospital, and I think everybody's recovered, and but they still take the whole thing very seriously, as if it's like one of the harder hit epicenters, you know. And but releasing the this recording during this time hasn't been challenging. It's just been difficult to figure out when was the right time to release it, you know, strategically, and would it be received well during this time, you know. And so we just kind of took a chance with it. I have a great marketing team that's behind the record, and they're you know, kind of putting their brainstorming as what a good time of this summer to release it. So we've just kind of been playing it by ear, actually.
Talk to me a little bit about your beginnings, kind of where you were born and raised and how jazz became your life.
Born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, and both my parents are musicians. My father is a jazz trumpeter, and my mother is a classical pianist and organist and a choir director. And my father was a member of Ray Charles band back in the early '60s. The band that personnel of the band that was pretty much the focal point of the movie that came out several years back, you know, on Ray Charles. And then I grew up with music all around the house, and when I started playing trumpet when I started playing piano when I was 5, and got kind of bored with that because I liked when my dad was playing on trumpet. So I started playing trumpet at around 9 years old, and came time for me to go into high school. We moved to, both my parents got jobs in Virginia at both taught at universities there, and I ended up majoring in music and focusing on jazz, and then I went to Hampton University in Hampton, Virginia. Got my undergraduate degree in jazz studies, then moved on to Indiana University, and studied and began my master's there with David Baker, but I didn't finish there because I got recruited into the Count Basie Orchestra, and which allowed me to move to New York and tour the world. And that was my first real professional gig, and did that for about 6 years or so. This is under the direction of Frank Foster. And I left the band actually when after Frank left the band in 1995, and then I left the following year in 1996, and I wanted to take advantage of more opportunities that were happening in New York, because we were touring so much with the basic band. I think we were touring something like about 270 dates a year, and but we'd come back in town for a couple of weeks, and I would, people find out I was back in New York, and I'd get a few gigs, then I had to leave, and more gigs in New York were coming in, but I couldn't do them because I was out on the road with the basic band. So I decided to leave the basic band to take advantage of other opportunities in New York, and one of those opportunities was to work with Frank Foster's groups, his Loud Minority big band, and his small group, which he called the Non-Electric Company, and then after that I started teaching, and was taught at Ohio State University for a year, and taught at Michigan State University for about 7 years, and then brought me here to Canada. I've been here for the last 9 years or so.
So it's safe to say that jazz and music has just been in your lineage and your blood since the word go.
Oh yeah, I didn't see myself doing anything other than jazz the whole time.
Talk to me a little bit about mentors. I know your father was probably a big mentor, but were there any other people that really laid some groundwork for you that you remember to this day that's very important as a musician?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I guess the more, I guess through school, I would have to say I had the chance to be exposed and mentored by great pianists, a couple of great pianists actually. Weldon Irving, who was a wonderful jazz pianist. He wrote the tune Mr. Clean that Freddie Hubbard recorded, and Young, Gifted, and Black, and quite a few other things during the 60s and 70s. And Larry Willis, another great jazz pianist that was a member of that group, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and worked with just a whole host of people. And then, of course, with David Baker, by the time I started at Indiana University. And Frank Foster was a huge influence on me, both improvisationally and as an arranger. I really got to fine-tune and coarse-tune my arranging chops with Frank Foster. He would be on the in between cities on tour. We'd be on the bus. We might have like 500-600 miles between cities, that we're traveling, and he'd be at the front of the bus with a pad of score paper and a black felt tip pen and no piano, and he's writing down these voicings on the pad with that voices that are in his head. So he's like saxophones, da 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 da, trombones, da 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 da, trumpets, da 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 da, and he's voicing these things off in his head. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, man, that's incredible. So I got me a pad of score paper about a week later. Thought I could do the same thing. I started voicing and da 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 da, And after I had about 16 measures or so completed, I went to the front of the bus and said, "Hey, Foss, man, can you check this out?" And he said, "Okay, let me see what you got." And so as he's looking at it, he takes the cap of his black pen and puts the cap on the pen and grabs his red pen and just starts bleeding all over my page with this red pen. So you got the third here, that's wrong. You got the A flat, that should be the A natural. Hey, why you got this going over here? And that whole line is wrong. And he just bled all over my page. I said, okay, here, work on this. And I just went back to the back of the bus with my tail between my legs. And so when I got to a piano, I would work out the voicings and stuff, and then after I had a few more measures done, I would go back to the false with my head bowed down and say, please, check this out again. And each time I went, back and forth with him like that, I had less blood on my page, and was able to, maybe about a year or so later, I was able to bang out an arrangement that we were actually able to play on the band. And it was an amazing experience just being mentored by him. And I kept studying arranging with him until he died in 2011.
Tell me this: what do you like the best about the interview session?
Oh, wow! That's probably a multi-layered answer to that one. It's the most satisfying and gratifying thing that I could ever think of doing. It's a total enhancement of the creative spirit of a person for me, and and you get to feed off of the energy of the people that you're performing for. You get to really, see how it's a great litmus test for how effective your music really is on the listener. I always say that when I write a piece of music and I put it out there, I'm trying to attract or affect the average person that's walking down the street that doesn't know anything about music, but is just affected by the sounds that he or she hears and says, "Wow, I like the way that sounds." Regardless of whether it's jazz or country and western or polka or whatever. If I can get that person to listen to what I'm playing, then I've done my job. Count Basie had always people when I was in the Basie band, about 60 or 70% of the band at that time was hired by Basie. So a lot of the musical traditions were still in that band, and they would always say that Basie would look out in the audience, and he said if people's feet aren't tapping and their head's not bobbing or they're not moving something in their body, then he's not doing his job, And so I've taken on that same type of mandate. If I haven't affected my listener, then I'm not doing my job, and that's totally gratifying when you are doing your job.
So let me ask you this: if you have a dream tonight and you run into your younger self, like around the time that you were starting to play, and you could give your younger self advice, what advice would you give your younger self?
My younger self, I would say, maybe to focus more, and because I had the focus then that I have now, or I would just be king of the world. I think when you're a younger person, of course I knew that I always wanted to be a musician. You're still experimenting with other things that you might be exposed to. Nothing bad in my case. Nothing bad or detrimental with me. But I would have liked to have had maybe a little more focus toward the end goal, and maybe even be ready to embark upon a professional career maybe a little earlier in my life. One thing that happened with me was after I finished my undergraduate degree at Hampton University, I said to myself, okay. I went to a music library and I found this Freddie Hubbard record that I always loved to listen to, and I said, okay, if you can hang with this, if you can play like this, then you're going to either going to go to New York and embark upon your career, or you're going to go to grad school and keep studying. And so I put the needle on the record and listened. Got past the melody, then he went into his solo, and after about the first 30 seconds of his solo, I took the needle off, and I said, okay, I guess I'm going to grad school. So I said, well, yeah, let's go ahead and get this thing together, 'cause I can't hang with Freddie yet.
Nice.
So, but, you know, in college as an undergraduate, you know, you, at least for me, you know, I practiced, but I also had a good time, you know, and I was doing, you know, hanging out and partying and doing stuff, you know, so I wish I had maybe just a little more focus during those years to be ready to get to the end goal a little sooner.
So let me ask you this. You know, we're going to get to the end of COVID-19, and we're going to get back to live jazz, and everybody's going to get back out to the clubs and venues. And when they do, what do you hope both the musician and the audience member realizes from this time away? Any silver linings about this absence of live music?
I think that maybe not to take live music for granted. That it really and truly has a place in society, although we have all these other musical options at our disposal that are, that center around being the availability on the internet. You know, you can go to Spotify or Pandora or YouTube Music or whatever, and create your own free streaming playlist of your favorite artists. And that essentially, but you might have like a band in town that's playing some of the same music or has their own original music to offer, where you say, oh, I'm just going to stay in town and I'm going to stay at home with a nice glass of wine or something and just go on Spotify and listen to my playlist, you know. And I don't think that's a huge problem. I don't think that that people in general have ruled out live music in that regard, but having everybody now being confined with all these restrictions and precautions surrounding the coronavirus, I think that tells people that, wow, I really miss going out and just doing stuff and just going out to a maybe to a movie or to a bar just with friends, or to hear some live music. And I'm here in Winnipeg, we are starting to open up about maybe 50 to 60% exposure, with regard to the pandemic, because we have such low numbers. And I did one of the first live gigs here in the city about a week ago, and it was on the rooftop of the Winnipeg Art Gallery, and all the seating was spaced out, according to all the precautions and stuff. And the tickets sold out within a week. They had tickets on about 2 weeks before the event, and they sold out the first week.
Nice.
and the crowd was, and I could tell the crowd was just starved for live music, and that's what's going to happen when this whole thing is over. I think it's a good thing, actually, because, I think everybody's going to be starved just to go out and just be out in the open, and one of those options for them to go out is, to hear some live music.
So my final question to you is this. Everyone has their perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, but you're the one living your life. Who do you think you are?
Deep question, I think.
That's a heavy one, yeah.
Yeah. I hope that I'm just a nice guy, I guess. Somebody that believes in treating people the same as a person would treat me, as same as I would have a person treat me, and I try to music is so much a part of my life that I try to do that, through musically, through whatever musical offerings I have to, put out there. But in the end, just try. One of my, I think, sayings that I've kind of subscribed to in the last few years is that we all are members of the human tribe. It's like everybody's kind of separated into this kind of tribalism kind of theory where everybody just flocks to the people of their particular skin color, and when you peel back the skin, everybody's the same color. So I'm like, everybody should subscribe to the human tribe and treat everybody like human beings. And so yeah, that's what I hope people kind of take away from me, I guess.
I dig it, man. That's a great answer. Derrick, thank you for opening up. Thank you for the music. Stay safe. Be well.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you very much for the interview.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest cats in New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Derrick for his time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Davino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.